Hey folks, so somebody a while back asked me about my setup and if I'd be interested in maybe doing a small video to show what my setup is for repairing all the stuff I have to repair. I kind of find the idea a bit odd, but then at the same time I suppose it's always interesting. It's actually the type of video I'd like to see myself, see other people set up and maybe get ideas from it. So this is it. This is what I have. It's not a big area. In fact, this entire room is kind of small. I've redone. Well, it's not kind of small. It's a tiny room. I have all my instruments here. I have my desktop here and my recording stuff. This is all my instruments, but I suppose you're more interested in this part of the setup. So yeah, here I just have my collection of boards there. These are fixed. I have some boards here that I just like to play on my JAMA setup. There's like stuff like R-Type and things like that. But anyway, back to this section. So it's pretty simple. What I have here is let me see. This is a small JAMA rig for testing. So I have the JAMA board here. Actually, let me show this. I'm using a gimbal as well to keep things a lot steadier, so you'll be happy about that. JAMA rig. I have an extension lead to connect to my whatever converter I'm using here. I have a little amp here for my test probe, for my audio probe, and this switcher power supply with just a long lead, because this goes in like that, so I can actually just regulate the 5 volt. I have just a stepping transformer because my Hako gun here uses one of these US voltage prongs or whatever, so I use one of these and it's connected to my soldering station as well. This is really it. It's as simple as it gets on that side. Just a soldering iron. I got this from a place called Maplin's in Ireland here, and it's in the UK. It's now gone. They've actually run out of business, but it was just their basic model. I have a Hako desolder station, which is very handy. I use it a lot. I have a crane here to put my phone on when I'm filming, and my monitor is a VS80, or is it the 70 model, just Philips monitor. This probably needs a cap at some point, cap kit. I have here just an old laptop for running my my programmers. This one is, which one is this? It's the X-Geku Pro. I have a couple. I find this one to be the most versatile. I also have the 4XQ thing, whatever it's called. I have this guy as well, GQ4X4, which is actually fairly limited, and they're not great at replying to and adding new chips and that kind of stuff. So I would actually recommend this one. It's cheaper as well, and it's much more versatile. You can actually check some RAMs as well with this. I think it does a lot more gals and pals and stuff like that. I have, and also it will check some of the ICs. Most of the ICs, like the TTL754LS. I have another thing here for this if I don't want to connect it. What else have I got here? I have a label printer here. I have this is a box to erase EPROMs. It's a UV light box. It's set on a timer. Can't get it out without. You set this on a timer for about, I don't know, 20 minutes, something like that, and it will UV erase your EPROM, so you can actually burn a new image in it. Here I have all my just flyers and anything that grips, you know. All of these. This is so handy. It's just to get the wire, to cut wire. I use this mostly, and then a lot of things. Here I have just screwdrivers. I kind of separate screwdrivers and every other tool because it's handier that way. You're not looking for stuff. Back onto the laptop, I have one of these that was sent to me, and I still don't know who sent it to me, but it's actually great. Very, very handy. It's a little USB microscope. It's like a webcam, really. You can use it on any webcam software, but it's a microscope. Very handy to just look at traces broken and things like that. And this laptop, I think it was given to me. And it's running Windows 2000, I think. It's more than enough to do everything I'm doing here. So there you go, that's the side of the setup. I apologize if it's boring, but I'm surprised so many people have asked me about this, so I'm going to continue. I have a 4-channel oscilloscope here. I can't really recommend any specific oscilloscope. This one was given to me by my dad. That was my dad's old oscilloscope when he worked with Philips. And when they got rid of all their old CRT type oscilloscopes and got digital ones, they ended up just essentially putting them in the bin. So he got all the old equipment, or most of the engineers got their old equipment, rescued it from the bin and used them at home as well. So he had a couple, I think he's 3 or something like that, maybe, or 2. So that's one of them. It's really cool actually to work on, or to work with this and have my dad's oscilloscope running here now. That's yeah, really, really like that. That's this section here. Underneath here, I have just a ton of junk. I've just more containers. I can't recommend these type of containers enough. They're so handy. I have them everywhere. Very, very handy, very tidy, and I just keep different stuff. I try to keep it somewhat themed. So here I have just wires, loose wires from cabs I rescued, and it's always handy to have a generous quantity of wires for making adapters and all sort of stuff. It can actually become expensive, get wires, so just salvage wire as much as you can. Here I've all the JAMA converter adapters that I've made in the past. Some of them I bought. I think this is a Galaga one. Here I have, is this another Capcom one? Yeah, it's a Capcom one. And then stuff I've made. Here I have just oscilloscope probes. I have this little oscilloscope, that's what I used for a while. They're okay. They're not very practical, I find. I wouldn't recommend this, to be honest. There's another option that I would recommend over this. This is way too expensive for what it is. But here, yeah, just more probes and stuff like that for the oscilloscope. I also have just a logic analyzer, so you can put all these things on your on the legs of your chip, connect that to your computer via USB, and actually look at the behavior of the individual legs. I yet have to use it in any meaningful way, but it's handy to have. I have donor boards here, just a variety of old boards that are just way far too gone to be of use, and I have another healthy collection of you can't see here, but I've more MSX. These are all MSX. I think this is an Atari XL. Here, some stuff that needs to be fixed, waiting to be fixed. I think these are working. I have more stuff in here. It's just it's just more additional stuff. Here I'll just have bits of projects I'm working on. Here and here, just I have these jumper here. Usually, I have caps here and cap kits that I yet have to put on monitors. Just sections of projects and different bits, all my audio stuff and video stuff here. And back to the desk here. So I find very, very handy to keep everything sort of accessible. So it's going to take you a while to just find a setup you're happy with, but I want everything to be sort of at arm's reach. Even that means I don't keep that plugged in all the time, only when I use it, but it's there and it's out. I don't have to take it out of a box or anything like that. So just make sure you find sort of a setup that you're happy with. It's not going to come overnight. You're going to... My recommendation is just get a JAMA setup or an oscilloscope setup or something like that, and then see what else you need and where you need it. And this is the setup I've come to over the years from just needing. That's what I need to be accessible. So here, these are so handy. All the LS chips in small drawers, and then RAMs, just different bits. Some of them are themed per computers, and then 64, Amiga, Neo Geo, Spectrum, all that kind of stuff. Z80s here. I've Galaxian RAMs here, and then all the PCB layers. So yeah, just keep things themed and in different sections. Here I have all my connectors if I need to make a connector for anything. Just gloves and masks. That's kind of here by default. That's actually very handy. I got that recently. It's copper tape to repair traces. Yeah, these masks are kind of handy because when you solder stuff, you don't want to be nailing that. So I made this little fan here from an old PC. What was this? It was a PC fan anyway. I'm running this on 12 volts. I made a small rack here to get all my voltages. So I have 5, ground, 12 and -5 that's coming from the switcher. So I can just tab them onto here instead of just messing with the connections that are there already. But I run my fan off that. It's handy, but then again, sometimes you're very close, so yeah, a mask doesn't hurt to have. I have gloves here. I have just my collection of batteries that are always handy for something. Pens and markers. These are just soldering stuff and help. I have some thermal paste, some glue. Is this? Yeah, what's that? Oh, electrical pen, conductive pen. Just soldering stuff, miscellaneous. I have all my heat shrink sections here. Always have an old toothbrush. Don't throw them; they're very handy just to clean stuff. And these metal brushes are handy as well. Whenever you do some soldering and you use probably too much flux, you can use just isopropyl alcohol and that, and just clean it. Very handy. Keep your, what I would recommend, keep your voltmeter out most of the time and ready to go, because again, this is so handy. You want things practical, you know. Another thing I would recommend is to have, so I have loads of stuff printed out, as you can see. Let me turn this camera here. I have stuff on all my schematics there in folders, but what I have here is just this notebook as well, because I take notes whenever I fix something or I'm working on something, so I don't end up doing the same stuff twice. For instance, yeah, that was just, I think there was a Kung Fu Master. See what EPROMs were doing what, where. Sometimes I had to redo some of, just individual chips. And then here I have at the back, I just have simple stuff like the pinout on some of those audio Yamaha chips and op amps. So I don't need to actually pull out a sheet for every single one of them. I have everything in just that one sort of notebook. It's kind of handy. I have this as a reference, and I have this guy, the TTL data book, which I find again very, very useful to just see the individual pinout of various chips for all this LS 74 or 74 LS TTL. You can get one of those. This one was given to me by a friend, but you'll find them on eBay. They're probably a bit pricey. You could get away with just printing stuff on the internet, or just having one of those, and then as you go through chips, just copying the data sheet there, or the pinout. And that's that. I've just old connectors here, stuff charging batteries and that kind of stuff. I have this section here for painting, but I haven't painted in a while. I'm thinking about getting another one of these towers, because I still have a lot of stuff that could go in it. Case in point, these guys here are full of these are game specific ICs. Well, actually they're standard type of ICs, but I pulled them out of the existing games, and you have the Outrun test boards, just remainders of a kit of doubles that I had from the Geo7 monitor restoration kit. That was an old Arkanoid that failed, that had died, it was beyond repair, and I just pulled out all the important stuff out of it. This pinball stuff, yeah. So I could use some of these drawers and tower things for all of these, just more crystal clocks and voltage regulators. I mean, these are handy to do the job, but ultimately it's kind of not very practical having to pull them out all the time, and you know, not super tidy, especially for caps. You start developing such a collection of caps and resistors. Wee problems here. So I would probably get another one of these. You can't get enough of these, actually, these tower things, and put it here. Move the painting section somewhere else. But that's really my setup. It's not huge, it's not big. Get one of these as well to clean your solder tips. But there's not a lot. I mean, compared to a professional setup or you know, or a pro setup, whatever that means. But it's more than enough for what I do. In fact, I think I have quite a bit. It's more than enough for what I do, and it's more convenience, you know, having everything accessible in one spot. This is why I use this angle. Initially, I was thinking about running this from here to over there, but then I would have to move sideways from side to side here, because it's an angle I just need to turn, and everything is there within arm's reach, and it makes such a difference. Trust me, convenience is probably more important than the tools themselves you're using, I would say. Anyway, and I have a section there for boards that I yet to be fixed. I usually put a few boards, empty it, and then put a few more boards and empty it, well, like that. Anyways, guys, that's my setup. Another thing you need is to have plenty of sockets. I have 3 here, I have 3 more here, and I have 1 just behind the computer here. But trust me, you can't have enough electrical sockets, because all this runs on the obviously electricity. I have 1 free one. This is what I'm left with at this stage. Get some of these as well. Very handy USB stuff. You can power 5 volt straight off them, and plenty of light. Just make sure that you have all the light that you need to work on. I'm not getting any younger, and my eyes starting to strain a lot more when I work on these boards. So having light coming from multiple angles as well, not just one big light, because you will inevitably cast a shadow. Here, by having just many lights, I'm just minimizing the shadows that are being cast, and even if there is a shadow, there's still another light shining on there. So yeah, plenty of light. These are great fluorescent ones. I would probably put one over there next, because that's a bit more light coming from this angle. So yeah, there you go. This is my setup, folks. I find myself a bit weird doing these, but I hope this was of some interest if you're thinking about actually building a small desk or a small setup as well. I don't know, maybe this was of some use. Folks, thank you for watching. If you want to chat more, you know what to do. Discord, Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, all that kind of stuff. See you next time.